Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So as somebody who's turning 26 years old in just a couple of weeks, in this video, I wanted to talk about investing in your 20s and the 7 places that I prioritize putting my money. Back when I graduated from college at Penn State almost 4 years ago, I started hearing many different things about what I could be doing with the money that I was now starting to earn as I was working my first full-time job. I'd hear people say that I needed to keep my expenses low and save, invest early so that I could take advantage of compound interest, contribute to a 401k, and a whole bunch of other things like that, but I didn't know where to start. So after a lot of research, making a few mistakes here and there, and then learning from that research and those mistakes, I wanted to make a video to talk about some of the best things that we can do with our money to set a solid financial foundation. Now, a lot of the things that I want to talk about here are going to apply to just about everybody, not only those people that are in their 20s and not just people that went to college. But this is just all from my experience, so if you're in your 20s like me and you're watching this video, then hopefully you'll find some useful things here and maybe get some ideas. So number one, the first place to put your money, and this is really something that I prioritized first once I began to have consistent income, and that is going to be an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Now, this emergency fund is something that I wanted to prioritize because the way that I view it is an emergency fund is almost like a cushion against life's unexpected expenses, and it can buy you time to land on your feet if something ever happens to your income or if your business goes away. I knew that if I got an emergency fund in place right away, well then if something happened to maybe my car and I needed new tires, or maybe my laptop got stolen or lost or something like that, well then at least I would have the cash on hand to be able to cover those expenses, and I wouldn't have to potentially resort to going into credit card debt for that. And I've said this before on my channel, so I'll say it again. I realize that everyone out there has their own situation with their own financial difficulties and hardships, so it may be tough for you to be able to generate some extra cash to put towards an emergency fund. And I want to make some more videos in the future about a few different ways that I've been able to generate extra income on the side for myself while also reducing my expenses so that more cash is left over to spend, save, and invest. Now, last thing about emergency funds before I get into my second place that I like to put my money. So the cash that I keep in my emergency fund, I like to keep as liquid as possible and not tied up in investments like stocks or crypto or anything like that. That's because, first of all, this money is not a major part of my portfolio. It's just something that I use for short-term emergencies. And if I ever take money from the account that it's held in, all I do is when I have future earnings, I'll take a little bit of extra money and then put it back into that account. And second of all, because it's for short-term purposes, I don't like to have my emergency fund inside of an investment because that investment could fluctuate in price over the short term. And then if I have to sell that investment for some reason, then there could be some possible tax implications later on as well. So I just keep it inside of a high yield savings account. And I know that inflation is really high right now, and it's just much higher than whatever interest rate I'm earning inside of that account. But I'm okay with that because I just want the convenience of having quick access to that cash. And now onto the second place that I've learned to prioritize putting money in your 20s. And this is an important one, and that is going to be paying off high interest debt. So I know that I talk a lot about credit cards here on this channel and how to use them correctly and responsibly in order to get some cash back and some points that you can use for free travel. So of course I've talked about the fact that in order to do this, you cannot be carrying a balance month to month, and you cannot be paying interest on your credit card debt, because if you do that, that is just going to far outweigh any of the benefits that you do get from credit cards. And I think that a lot of you that watch my channel regularly think the same way about credit cards, but I still like to mention it here because high interest debt, including credit card debt, is something that affects millions of Americans across the country. Now, when I say high interest debt, I'm really talking about anything with double-digit APRs, but I think you can also really classify anything from around 6 or 7% or higher as high interest debt that you should definitely make a priority to pay off in your 20s. I mean, if you think about it and you choose to invest your money instead of first paying off that high interest debt, well, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to generate a return from that investment that's higher than that high interest rate that you're already paying from your debt, and that is something that's very tough to do consistently. So that's why it's better to just pay off that high interest rate debt first, because by doing that, your return is actually going to be equal to the amount of interest that you're saving yourself from paying. All right, now after that, we're going to go to the third place that we can look to put our money in our 20s, and this is something that is going to just vary from person to person depending on your situation and depending on your employer and what's offered. But the third place that you can put your money is going to be a 401k. Now, a 401k is an employer-sponsored tax-advantaged retirement account, and if it's not available to you, then you may have something similar. So just contact your employer to see what you can contribute to, or do a quick Google search, and that should help you as well. But what this means is that a 401k is something that both employers and the government use to incentivize people to save for retirement, and this is something that we can take advantage of. Now, there's sometimes different types of 401ks available from your employer, like the traditional 401k and the Roth 401k, and these have similar goals, but they also also are a little bit different in terms of their tax advantages. I'm not gonna be getting into that type of detail in this video. What I am gonna focus on here with the 401k that we can take advantage of is something called the company match. Now, what many employers will do is they'll say, okay, employee, if you contribute a certain percentage into your 401k plan, we'll match that up to a certain percentage. So as an example from one of my previous employers, I believe what they did was they would give me 50 cents for every $1 that I contributed, up to 6% of my paycheck. And the reason that I learned to prioritize contributing to my 401k up to that company match is because that's free money. So what I'm doing is I'm contributing to my retirement plan, but my employer is also supplementing that for free. Now with a 401k, you're not going to be able to withdraw any money from that account without paying a penalty, at least until you get closer to that traditional retirement age. But this can actually be a good thing because the fact that you just have to let that money sit there for the next 40 to 50 years means that you don't have to do much at all. You can just let that money grow for you. Just make sure that you actually do invest the funds within your 401k, because remember, a 401k is just a type of account. It's not an actual investment itself. You have to choose the individual index funds or target date funds or whatever else is available to you from your employer within the 401k. If you don't do that, the money is just gonna sit there and it's just gonna be like a checking account or a savings account. Okay, now on to the fourth place that I've learned to put my money in my 20s, and this one is something that is highly, highly underrated, and that is going to be a health savings account, otherwise known as an HSA. So an HSA is something that you're only going to be eligible for if you have a high deductible health insurance plan, but there's a few reasons why this might be something that you might want to look into in your 20s. First of all, people in their 20s are typically healthier on average than people that may be a little bit older, and that's just how we age. And even though you may be pretty healthy in your 20s, you definitely should still be covered under some sort of health insurance plan, but you might not want to pay too much each month for that coverage. Well, with a high deductible plan, that's exactly what you get. Lower monthly premiums, but just like the name suggests, you are going to have a high deductible that you have to pay for any out-of-pocket expenses. But that's where an HSA comes into play to help you maximize what you can do with your money, because an HSA is really the ultimate tax-advantaged account. You can contribute up to a certain amount pre-tax. I believe the limit was $3,600 in 2021, and then that is going to lower your taxable income and save you money on taxes there. You can use the funds from your HSA to pay for a wide variety of qualifying medical expenses with pre-tax money. So again, more buying power there compared to if you used post-tax money, like money that's already in your checking account from paycheck where the taxes have already been taken out of that. And best of all, you can invest the money in your HSA where it can grow tax-free. So what I decided to do was max out my HSA each year that I'm able to do that so that I can benefit from all those tax advantages. And I also didn't even mention this before, but a lot of employers out there, including my own, will contribute a certain amount of money to your HSA for you, so that's some more free money right there. I also typically don't touch any of the money in my HSA, so if I ever have a medical expense, I'll just pay for it with a regular credit card, and then I'll keep the money inside of my HSA so that it can grow tax-free. And then later on in life, since we all tend to have more medical expenses as we get older, I'll be able to use any of that money that's grown tax-free from my HSA to pay for those medical expenses. I can also withdraw money from my HSA after age 65 to pay for non-medical expenses after just paying some income tax on that amount that I withdraw. So at the very worst case scenario, my HSA is just going to become another IRA. So being in my 20s and on a health plan with an HSA is something that I'm really glad I found out about and that I'm taking advantage of. All right, now for the fifth place that I've been putting my money, this is gonna be one final tax-advantaged account, and that is the Roth IRA. Now, a Roth IRA is a very powerful type of an investment account that I have opened up with Vanguard, and I've managed to max out that account for the second straight year at the income limit of $6,000 for 2021. For anyone that's not familiar, a Roth IRA is another type of retirement account where you can contribute post-tax money, so that's money that's already been taxed, and you can invest that money within this account and whatever you want to. You can invest in index funds, ETFs, mutual funds, stocks, and a whole bunch of other different options, and that money is going to grow inside those investments inside the account tax-free. I just have to wait until at least age 59 and a half to withdraw any of the earnings that I've accumulated within that account without having to pay any extra penalties or taxes. Now, there's a whole bunch of other cool things that I could get into much more detail about with the Roth IRA, but I'm not gonna do that in this video. One thing that I do wanna focus on here though is the fact that you can withdraw any contributions that you've made to your Roth IRA without having to pay any penalties or taxes, because remember, that's all post-tax money that you've contributed to the Roth IRA account, so you're free to take that money out of the account if you actually want to. I don't plan to withdraw any of that money from my Roth IRA until I'm much, much older, but it's nice to at least know that I have that option if I need that for some reason whatsoever, because you can't do that with a traditional IRA or with a traditional 401k. So as you can see, a common theme here years for me to invest what I can for retirement early while also taking advantage of any company matching. That way, any money that I contribute to all these accounts can grow over time, over the long run, and take advantage of compound interest. And that leads me to the sixth place that I've learned to put my money, and that is going to be a taxable brokerage account. Now, this is something that I do as well, and I have a few different taxable brokerage accounts, but I like to invest in things like index funds and ETFs just because they're much simpler, they're very diversified, and it's easier to invest in those things compared to picking individual stocks. I do own a few individual stocks as well, but I've learned to be very careful when choosing stocks that I want to invest in because there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. If you're gonna do it the right way, you really should be trying to read their earnings reports, read their 10Ks, listen to any earnings calls, read what the analysts are saying so that you can form your own opinion about the company. And this can be a lot of work, but if you're willing to put in the work, or if you just believe in the company that you want to invest in, then a taxable brokerage could be a great place for this, and it's something that I do after I've taken care of all the other things that I've talked about throughout this video. I guess you can also throw investing in cryptocurrency into this category and into this place that you can put your money as well. But I do want to warn you here that investing in crypto is definitely a little bit more risky than some other assets out there, just because cryptocurrency is still very new. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just continuing to research and educate myself on this space, and then slowly allocate a small percentage of my portfolio into different cryptocurrencies. And now finally, the seventh place to put your money, and this is something that you can be doing every single day and simultaneously while you're doing all these other things that I've talked about in this video, and that is going to be investing in yourself. Now, I know that sounds very obvious and probably a little bit cliche because so many other people say it, but it's very true. You can invest just a little bit of extra money into things like books, maybe into things like classes where you can learn and develop new or existing skills. Or you can just invest your time into learning something new because the internet is an amazing resource and it's really just at your fingertips, and there's so much knowledge out there, so many great resources and information that's available to you whenever you want and almost completely free. Whether it's watching YouTube videos, listening to audiobooks or podcasts, there's just so many ways that you can invest a little bit of time into yourself to learn new things and develop your skill sets. And I think that's a much better use of your time in your 20s instead of playing video games or watching too much Netflix or something like that. Doing these things could give you the ability to generate some more money, or could give you the idea to start a new business. So really the return on investment from investing time in yourself is kind of unlimited. Now, I know that this was kind of a long video, so if you've stayed all the way until the end to watch this right now, then I just want to say thank you so much for watching. One of the main reasons why I started this YouTube channel was because I just wanted to talk about my experiences with money and start a conversation with anyone out there on YouTube that was willing to listen, because I love to learn and talk about this stuff in addition to any of the credit card videos that I make. So let me know what you thought about this video down in the comment section below, and also feel free to leave any other advice that you have for investing in your 20s as well. Of course, nothing in this video is financial advice, so make sure you speak with a financial professional before you make any decisions with your money by yourself. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe to my channel down below for more content just like this. I'll leave some more videos from my channel on the screen right now. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.